Hey Joe, how are you doing today?
No, Mike, I'm fine. Thank you. Lovely to see you.
Lovely to see you too. Well, I have a lot of questions for you today, so let's jump right on in. So for those who want to make a life as a musician or an artist, what do you feel is an important thing that they need to know?
I think the most important thing is to be aware that you need tenacity, and you must have a lot of faith in what you do. You must believe in what you yourself do, because there will be times when it feels like maybe nobody else believes in it, but you carry on and you keep going, and you have pride in what you do and integrity in what you're writing. That's the biggest piece of advice I could ever give to anybody. Trust yourself.
I like it. So what would you say then is the most difficult thing about being an artist in today's music industry?
Oh gosh. Well, where should we start? Well, you've got to bear in mind that today's music industry is very different from where it was 3 years ago, and certainly where it was 20 years ago. So I think that probably the most difficult thing is that we must be able to multitask, and essentially we must be able to do everything pretty much by ourselves. I don't mean therefore we're cutting out the professional people who are mixing or mastering, or engineers, or PR people, but we do need to have a very firm handle on all aspects of the career. It's not enough, I think, now just to be the artist. You must also have a handle on everything else that goes with it.
That's a good point, because I guess these days you have to wear many hats, and it's very difficult sometimes to keep your energy levels up and be consistently fulfilling all of those different roles one has to play. So what would you say then, what skills would you say have been most useful to you and most valuable to you as an artist?
Well, other than endless cello practice and a pretty thorough grounding in practical applications, harmony and things, the most useful, valuable skills for me as an artist. One of the things I enjoy most actually is in live performance, and I particularly enjoy meeting people afterwards. Now, I'm not saying that I do that because it's a marketable aspect that I'm working on, but what I do feel is very valuable is the connection, which obviously is something that's very important to me now because it was missing for several years over the pandemic. So this connection, that's a very valuable skill, to be able to not work a room, but to be able to stand at a merch desk or meet people afterwards, hear their stories, but to be able to interact with people and listen to what they want to say, how they were affected in the concert, what they feel about an album, stuff like this. Just building friendships and relationships, and that's so important, I believe. But I am not a commercial artist, so it's slightly easier for me because I'm not facing like 50,000 people in a stadium or something. So
That would make networking a little bit harder, wouldn't it?
Yes, indeed. Yes.
I think that's a good point though, actually, because in all industry, those kind of relationships, I think, are very important, especially for sustaining yourself long term.
Mhm.
And with that in mind, how important would you say social media is for artists today?
Critically important, unfortunately, because again, it marks a difference to how things were done as to how they are done now, and you must have a strong social presence. I don't use TikTok, for example, because I'm sort of far too old for that kind of thing, but probably that would be a very sensible place to have quite a lot of presence. I do find that my Facebook account, which I guess is rather old-fashioned these days, my Facebook account is where people will often comment on a post, and that's where I can comment back and we can have a chat, or perhaps I'll share articles. It's not like, oh, look what I'm doing. It's wow, this is really interesting article about Pythagoras or something, whatever, and you start to build a community. Instagram is very, very useful. Stories are very useful as well because it's just a quick fire way of perhaps sharing a concert picture or something, or I use it sometimes to demonstrate little aspects of pedal work that I'm doing, or particular technique, or even if I'm just changing my cello strings and I want to show everybody how filthy the fingerboard is, things like that. People actually find it's voyeurism in a way, but social media allows for that, and people have a glimpse kind of behind the curtain, although there's no curtain in my career, but there's the glimpse, and you can feel connected, and that's the point of social media, more than just here I am doing a gig. So
So when you say sadly, do you mean that because it's like another hat one has to wear
Yeah.
as an artist, or because social media can be difficult, a difficult thing to navigate?
Well, both really, Mike. I mean, social media, I'm very lucky because I have the secret, glorious star weapon called Lisa, who helps me with my social media. I hate talking about myself. I hate talking about what I'm doing. I hate saying, oh, my album got to number 22 or whatever. I can't stand all that. Lisa's really good at doing that, so she'll do that for me. But also, I think because social media goes hand in hand with the whole streaming thing, and my passion is playing concerts really, and so I sort of I don't know. I mean, I came perhaps a bit late to it. I guess. So my daughter is 10, and if she grows up in music, she'll be very familiar with this, and she'll know how to navigate this. But I still kind of am forced to it, kicking and screaming a little bit. So it's not something I'm wholly comfortable with. I wish probably I would like to feel differently about it, but it's not something. I also find it takes a hell of a long time to make a post. I'm not very good at posts. You're very good at it, but it takes me a long time to make a post, which is another reason. So I can find, being an independent musician, actually playing the cello is probably the least amount of time spent on anything that I do, which is quite funny, really. But anyway, that's my social media gripe over. I'm off my soapbox now.
I'm the same. It takes me ages to do a post.
Does it? Oh,
people
good.
have this perception that I'm very quick at it, but I don't have that perception of myself. Having a 10-year-old is very useful because they make great social media managers because they know it inside out because they grew up with it, right? So maybe she needs to be running your TikTok.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'll give her, when I think she's old enough to be fully on social media, which is not now, then yes, I'll give her a good crack of the whip and see what she can do with it. Why not?
Absolutely. What would you say is the most effective way to market and sell records?
From my personal point of view, performing a concert, that's where I sell most of my merchandise, particularly. Well, not particularly all of them actually. I mean, I do sell online, and when it's things like Bandcamp Friday, or I've got one album now which is released through a label, but everything else was released in my own label. So people are very supportive of Bandcamp Friday. But generally speaking, when I'm touring, that's when I shift the most merch, and that's when I have an opportunity, because my music is instrumental as well. So I have an opportunity to tell people about the perhaps part of the story or the inspiration behind the particular track, and then I can obviously perform it, and then we can talk about it afterwards. So live is where they sell for me.
And do you feel that diversifying one's income or diversifying their stream of income is important as an artist? And how do you approach this?
Yes, that's critically important. I know very, very few people who make a living purely from performing music. Obviously, there are other aspects such as synchronization, which is very nice if you can get them. They don't always come up, but that's one of our big goals. I work at Think Space, which is a great privilege. So I love to do this work. I will occasionally I do films. Not Hollywood blockbusters, but films where people have created their lifetime's passion. Do you know what I mean? And then I write for these films, and I love to do that. And just sort of keeping, many things on the go. I don't teach anymore, although I do workshops and masterclasses in looping or cello playing or whatever it is that people want to talk about. But you must be able to, I think, diversify. Possibly, this could be inaccurate, but if one isn't diversifying, it might be because one is in a position whereby there's a very strong commercial plan behind what you're doing as an artist. So it could be that perhaps the more flexibility and freedom you want to have in creative terms, possibly the wider your portfolio of income sources needs to be, perhaps.
And how do you like to approach writing music? Are you someone who likes to work straight into a door? So if you were set the task to write something today, where would you start?
It would depend what it was, Mike. I mean, normally speaking, music comes from playing the cello for me. So, and it will come not from trying to write the piece, but it'll come from practice where something's gone wrong, and I thought, oh, that's great. Or the work I do with my boss pedal. So it could be that I'm, working. So it'd be basically accidentally, usually. If I'm writing for something particularly, if you said, right, write me a piece today, then probably I would start off in Cubase, and probably my starting point would be taking one of my found sounds. I'm obsessed with mobile phone recordings. So I would pick out one of my carefully uncatalogued found sounds, and I would stick it in, and I would start to play with it, and I would just see what colour and shape came from that. And that is often the starting point when you begin to manipulate sound. With not just a textural thing, but often you can get pitch out of sound as well. So like I have this great squeaking gate, which is generated many pieces because this gate obligingly was in E flat, and so I could pitch it, and I was working with it. This is a way I like to work a lot, but it depends what the project is and who's asking for it and what they want, really.
And when you got a track done, do you like to mix your own tracks, or do you like to outsource that? How do you feel about music technology?
I am I'm comfortable with music technology. What I realised quite relatively recently, in the last year or so, is that I had to be able to do my own mixes, and that was long and short of it, really. I have worked with people who've been mixing and mastering in previous albums, but since the pandemic, when I started to do stuff on my own here at home and then take recordings from people who'd I have a piece that I wrote recently, for example, where somebody it was a French horn part, so she recorded it at home, sent it to me. So I'm starting to build my mixes, and I have to be able to do them myself because of the sound. There's quite a lot of processing that goes on sometimes, and sound design aspects as well, and that's something that nobody else can hear what I hear in the same way that I can't hear what you hear. So I have to be able to mix them. Mastering is an art unto itself that I would leave to mastering professionals, definitely.
And what are your current goals, and what are you doing to reach them?
Well, I'm trying to get a bit faster with my workflow, and in order to reach that, I'm just basically working as much as I can, as quickly as I can. So setting myself silly tasks like, completing a piece in 2 hours or something, a short piece. This is what I tell our students actually as well. If, sometimes it's very good to write a 1-minute piece and give yourself 2 or 3 hours to do it in complete, with an arc, compositional arc, and believable with integrity. So that's one of my goals. I want to be a better cellist. I want to be a better pianist. So I'm spending time practicing, cello and piano. I've been playing cello for like 40 odd years, but there's always there is never a point where we know it all. And in fact, the more I play, the more I realise how much I don't know. And for me to walk on a stage at, say, Bataclan or something like that, to play my electric cello, that's only possible if I learn my Piatti caprices, if I play my Bach suites, if I play my Feuillard, all these things. So that's a real goal of mine, is to continue to try to be as best as I possibly can all the time.
And if you could go back in time and give yourself a piece of advice, what would it be?
Oh my God. Well, it would just be to trust myself and to believe in myself, and to have faith that I can actually do the things I'm trying to do, and that I don't have to wait around for somebody else to do it, to not be swayed by I don't know, but I mean, back in the day, it was a feeling of just inability to do something, and that's rubbish. You can learn. I mean, creativity is not something that can be learned. It can definitely be experienced, but the practical side of things can be learned, and just trusting your own abilities. I wish I'd had a little bit more faith in what I'd done, earlier on. So I'm trying to make up for it now, though, Mike.
A lot of artists feel that way, actually. When they have that question, they say something very similar to that. What do you think it is that creative types, especially early on, feel that way about themselves? They have that lack of confidence. Why do you feel that is the case?
I think you could answer that on many levels. I mean, it certainly would be a psychological aspect. So, for example, if you're a creative person, I think probably you tend to be more fully open to, the greatest laughter and the deepest sorrow, for example. And so you are going to put stuff out there which is riddled with self-doubt, because that's because you have that, because that's what enables you to create. It's that ability to reach somewhere else, to pull down those notes and then to put them out there as a story. You're exposing part of yourself, even though if you believe, as I do, that it's not, that it comes from somewhere else and I'm just a vessel that it goes out through. But I still, if I go onto a stage or make a record, then I'm putting that out there. And so it's a big part of myself as well that's being, I suppose, judged, or we feel that we're being judged, although maybe we are, we aren't, I don't know. But I think that's why we have this self-doubt. And it seems to me the higher up the food chain we go, the greater the kind of imposter syndrome kicks in. I mean, pretty much every day I wonder whether it's like I'm actually going batty and it's all a load of rubbish what I'm writing. You know what I mean? And maybe it is. I don't know. But if I still retain those moments of faith in what I do, then I carry on because it's a compulsion, because I have to create, I have to. And if I'm not playing music, and the rare hours very late in the evening before I go to bed, I'm crocheting, I'm making with my hands. I have to create, I have to. So, or I bake.
I guess that shows why social media can be a difficult thing, because it can kind of take one back to those times where they have self-doubt, because now when we put things out there and then there's one like or nothing, and then you're like, oh, maybe I am being judged, it's like everybody hates it or something, but actually it could just be the case of the following isn't that big, or nobody's the time of the post was bad. And I guess we can be our own worst enemies sometimes, and it's having a healthy outlook and a healthy view of oneself that could be quite hard to find that balance. But
Very.
I think, do you feel like the more experience you get with things like touring and writing records, that these kind of help you over time to get a balanced view of oneself?
Very much so. Yeah, that's a very wise observation. The longer you spend on the road, the more ridiculous things don't faze you, and the more things don't faze you. You go on and you make your concert. You go to your venues. You release your records, a good review comes in, a review which is questioning certain things comes in, but you have this, it's like water off a duck's back after a while. It's not that you don't care what the reviewers are saying, or not that you don't care. What matters to me is the concerts, and when people at the concerts, can I reach those people? Can I create a space for those people in which they can, just for a little while, escape, whether I'm doing a heavy concert or a more lightweight one, whatever it is. The experience of doing that over and over again definitely empowers you, and I think having the right team around you as well, particularly relevant for touring, having the right tour manager or merch people, or even the venues that you go into, if everything's where you need it when you go there, then you've got what you need in order to do your best possible job, and you get confidence and empowerment from that, and that's really important, I think.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much, Jo, for spending time with us today. Where's a good place to go to listen to your music?
Oh, well, I'm on Spotify, but, if people like to support, then Bandcamp, Jo Quail, Joquail. So if you just do a search for Jo Quail on Bandcamp, I'm on YouTube and stuff as well, just wherever you like. Basically, if you like it, listen to it, share it, come to a concert. I'd love to meet you.
Awesome. Thanks, Jo.
Thank you, Mike.